Hello everyone, dear hackers. So what's up? We are moving forward. I hope you enjoyed the previous lesson and were able to render your UI with lists. Well, in this lesson I will show you the project structure of hacker level, how to properly organize a project in JavaScript instead of writing everything in one file, as most beginners do. This is already, let's say, a medium level. When I say hacker level, you already roughly understand my slang, what I mean, if you've watched the previous lessons. So let's move on to organizing our project. Let's go. So, what's up, hackers? In the last lesson we made a little list, but look at this wonder. But all of this, it shouldn't be here. There are forums for developers called Stack Overflow. The biggest mistake is mindlessly copy-pasting from Stack Overflow because, for the most part, there are incompetent programmers who have barely managed to find some info to help others, but they write the most terrible code. And thanks to Stack Overflow, in quotes, I made a lot of mistakes and then I had to blush for my code. Not a cat, but code. I constantly confuse cat with code. So what's next? Let's move on to our modules. Look, what are we going to do? Let's just create, for clarity, 2 modules in the root folder for now. They are also JavaScript files. Data module.js. What does this mean? In this module, we will store our data of this kind. All of this, right? These are string data because we wouldn't really want to mix them with logic. Then we write the second module. This will be posts.module.js. The fact that I named it posts.module.js is a matter of preference because I've spent most of my life using the Angular framework, and there, when it's a module or a component, such a keyword is directly included in the file name. So it's a matter of taste, of course, but if you trust me, do as I do. That's how I'll put it. So guys, I had an emergency. Just recorded a video yesterday and the magic mouse died. Damn. I can't charge and use it at the same time, so I have a touchpad here on the right and I'll carefully use the touchpad. Accordingly, we need to transfer all the data to the data module. Let's start with HTTP response. Okay, we'll drop them from here. We won't touch the selectors. Now I'll clean up all the unnecessary code. Next, we need to create variables. Let's say, here's page title. It's called GT. Okay, next. Create a name for the page. This, we need to create a name for the pages for this. Can store directly in the object. Const pages equals. Look just how we can simply about services. Oops. Sorry. Look, here's the trick. There's a hack. Always at the end, even if there's no next element, it's better to put a comma. There's an opinion, I personally haven't checked or measured it, that when the compiler assembles JavaScript code, if there's a comma, it concatenates the code more easily, meaning its parts. And when there's a comma at the end, it's easier for it, it does it faster. But it's a snobbish thing. But I've gotten used to doing it this way, so that's how I do it. As I said, I haven't measured it myself. So again, if you trust me, trust my experience, do the same. What's the trick? You see, we specified pages in the object. I like this feature in JavaScript. It's not present in many other programming languages. I'll just show it as an example. Pages shortcut. Then I'll comment this out. If the key name and the value name are the same in JavaScript, you can simply not write the value name and just write it like this. And when you refer to this key, it will give you a about directly. Well, if about gives about, if it matches like this. Even many static linters, well, these are other programs that check code. They often say, don't write it like this, write it like that if the names are the same. The same shortcut syntax for the pages object. Guys, I will write everything in English so that it sticks in your mind, especially for those who don't study English, so that it just gets memorized in your brain. everything in English. Guys, I'm such a virtuoso right now. My touchpad is far away on the laptop. I'm like Jackie Chan. Well, for clarity, I'll leave it like this for now. I just showed you this for demonstration purposes. All of this is there. It exists. Well, you know what else we can do? We can also simply incorporate the URL of this image there. Here is page title, page image URL. Everything is there. Good. All right, we have all the data and let's start tidying. Everything up gradually. I will do it step by step. Look, now we will return to our HTML file. We used, you see, how we connected the script. But considering that we didn't use a modular structure, the modular structure is currently supported by default in JavaScript. Previously, when I started, this was impossible. Until recently, if I'm not mistaken, it was impossible. That is, before, we had to use third-party bundlers like Webpack, use modules, and rebuild the code each time. At the moment, we're lucky. JavaScript supports modules by default. I will show you what this is. You must specify the type as a module, which means we will be using a modular structure. And now main.js, after we've written this, what can we do? We can now import other modules. But in order to import other modules, we need to export other modules. Accordingly, we need to export everything we've written here from this module. Here we'll define a constant. Well, this is our data module, right? Equals, we open an object. And into this object, we must enter all our... I will show you another way to do this later, but this is my style. I prefer this approach. That's it. We need to export all of this. Look now, the response. Why should I copy manually? Page title. What else do we have there? Page, image, URL. Then pages. That's all. I'm spelling everything out for you. Write export. Export this module. And in this module, export, not export, but export default. That's the right way. Export, functionality. And now let's import our data module. Import. Data, module. It immediately highlighted, you see, from .js. That's all. Look, now we have access to this module and its variables. Here, look, I'll remove this. So you can see, that's it. We don't have it anymore. Equals, inner text, title, data module dot, page title. See, that's all. It fetched the text from here for us. Next, we'll write, remember, I showed you what the structuring is. Const. About service offerings and products like customer support. Basically, we need to extract these variables from the module, these two from pages here. This is called destructuring. Check the JavaScript basics. I explain what it is there. Pages. It's the same as if we directly took pages.about, pages.service. This way, everything is simpler for us here. Sorry, here. We also need data.postmodule. That's it. I delete here. About, see? Everything has been pulled in for us. I delete here. Services. Everything's great. Pulled in. And here we remove the URL. Well, how do we remove it? Remember, I showed you concatenation using plus signs. How do we insert here? Do we need to insert a JavaScript variable here? There are several ways. Let's use the first one. That's it, we've separated it. It will be very confusing now, but I'll show you how. Now how to simplify it. Here we write data.module.pageImageURL plus. If I remove this now, look, see? That's it. I, roughly speaking, inserted it inside the URL here, meaning I separated it. This is called concatenation. It all turns into a single string. This is called image. Classic, con. String, conca. Well, this is not even ba. Well, it's basic, but it's something you will constantly encounter, concatenation and so on. Look at what I will write for you. Main image, add main image. It's called string templating. Templating, template engines. this can all be simplified in this way. I'll copy it. For this, we need to open, I don't remember what these quotes are called, these slanted ones. And here we write a regular string. And to insert something here, we need a $, 2 curly braces. And right here, I'll comment on this. I think it will be more convenient for you to use this method. So, or well, that's it. See? That is, you open these angled quotes. So, and here in the brackets, I'll leave it everywhere as it looked before so you can compare. That's it. Insert it from our module. Everything's cool. Look, here's what's important. This is again my personal preference. I often see people doing it a little differently. I'll do it now and then revert it back. This is for your education. Export functionality. Equivalent. You can do an export mode, directly open curly braces, and export everything separately, like here, everything separately. Response, page, title, page, image, pages. It will complain now because the default keyword needs to be used when we are exporting only one default module, and when we import it in this way. You'll understand what I mean in a moment. Look, now I'll write out the export functionality separately. Look, I exported it twice here. I exported this module separately and made them so they can be exported one by one. What does this mean? Look, you can comment this out, and everything will fall apart now. Import. Now, from the same module. And now we can also import each variable and function separately, and then use them directly without referencing the module. This includes the pages, the page title, and the page image. So these elements are crucial for understanding the content. Do you see what I mean? Like this. I don't really like this actually. I prefer when it's a large module with a single access point, and we can get everything we need from there. So you can do it this way or that way. I'll revert everything back to how it was. I'll just comment this out now. That's it. I'll delete this too, so the old stuff doesn't confuse you. Check everything in the database. I missed something here somewhere. Our posts aren't rendering because I used the for loop, but we need to use home. Oops. What is it called again? Not home module. Data module. Data module. .http response. I'll change everything here now. Here. And for each as well. Yeah. Since we're already getting data from the data module. Everything is rendered well now. The next thing I don't like is that we created a post module for this. I don't like the functions. Functions shouldn't be in the main entry file. Accordingly, we will now take all these functions, comment them out for now. They will disappear again. All 3 functions, and move them to the post module. Here, by the way, we do an alternative export, as I showed in the previous export. Because, look, it's great when we can export separately, when we don't need to export everything. So in this case, I want to export only, init post for loop. Okay, look, here's another thing. We don't have access in this module. We can gain access by importing the data module into the post module, but that wouldn't be quite correct. Therefore, we will define a variable posts here, which we will pass like this, and we'll do it everywhere. For a clear example, I'll export all the loops that exist, but I will only import the ones needed. As I said, it would be the wrong approach if we imported the data module directly into the post module, although it's possible. That would be incorrect. This pattern would be completely incorrect. A pattern is a template. We have another small problem. Our post module doesn't know anything about the DOM container. It doesn't have a DOM container. That's what we defined there in main.js. See? Container house. What do I suggest we do? We could embed this DOM container directly into the post module, but I wouldn't want to do that here. I suggest passing the DOM container as a separate variable conditionally, meaning passing the container where we want to render. That is, the list of posts and a reference to the container. That would be correct. You'll understand what I mean in a moment. Because, as I said, our functions here, inside the posts, they know nothing about this DOM container that we defined here. As I said, we could do it like this, copy it, yes. And here for this domain, it would not be quite correct. Okay, you know what we'll do now? Main.js. We need to get access. Import. Which one do we want? Well, I want the usual one to access the regular function. Init posts, the simplest one we have. Init posts from continuing further. Which post do we have there? Let's remove this .2. We are from the root, init posts. And here, in the main file, look at what it does for us. We call what we imported init posts. Next, we carefully pass a functionality from the data module from this list of these posts, ensuring accuracy. And we need to pass a reference to the DOM container, to this one, where we want to insert all the posts. Passed. But something doesn't please it. Let's take a look. Data module is not defined. Look at this. In the post module, I forgot to switch to posts. There. Here, I need to specify posts. He writes that he cannot find it. You see, I used the module here, and it says it can't find the module. Still, something doesn't please it. Reading for each of undefined. It doesn't like it. It says that posts are not defined. Let's check now. HTTP response, not posts. Let's start from the beginning. We need to specify init posts. Data module dot. Our post variables are stored in the HTTP response. And the second variable, we need a reference to our main DOM container. That's where we will insert posts. That's it, all set. We called the function, passed the list of posts from the data module, passed the reference to the main container, and that's it. The rest, this is our post module. It generates a virtual DOM for us. Here are the classes. Everything is inside the function. It generates everything itself, and see how beautiful it is. Here is a function for building posts in different variations, in different loops. Here, only the data we need to render is separate. And here is the main logic. References to the main elements, setting, and the value of these references. There, this name, and loading of posts. Load posts. I'll remove the unnecessary parts now. Look at what a cool thing we can do. We can write a function image loader, which will insert an image by link into any div block. Because see how it doesn't look very good. For this, we will write a function. I'll copy it for the future now. Function image loader module. For this, what do we need to specify? The URL, that is the link to the image and the container. That is the DOM element into which we want to insert this image. So I copied all this, just need to change here the container where we will load it. And here we substitute image URL from here to here. And I want to export this image loader here as well. We're just doing some embellishments right now. We need to import image loader from here. And now we don't need this. Load main image with image loader. We need to pass the image here, period. How is it there? Post house. What is it called? This image. How is it there? Page image URL. Here's page. Image URL. And where do we want to render it? This is the link to the container. DOM post image block. Here it is. What is going on? It doesn't like something. Here's the image URL. I made a mistake here. Now it has loaded everything for us. See how cool it is that we made a separate function. So we hid all this chaos. Yes, we hid all these links to make it look nice. I will move all of this there so you can see how it can be done. What options are available. Here I show how to do it with classic concatenation and templating. I'll just copy from here so you have it as a base. Alright guys, this is already a medium level, junior level. Of course, it can still be improved. I will delete this because you already understand how to work with these modules. I created different exports in 2 different modules. Naturally, I will remove this from here as well. We don't need it because we do everything like this here. You can write comments for each function. For example, let's open it. I like writing this way. Comments can be written either with an asterisk or simply like this with 2 slashes, and it will be a comment. Then you don't need to close it. With an asterisk, you need to close it. And here we can write comments for our code. Init posts with data, for example, received from the server. And so you can do it for each function. It will be beautiful. I will write for each one. Load image to container. That's it. We ended up with a pretty good code. Everything is fine here. Here are the links to the main elements. I'll remove this debug. For you, I provided it for debugging purposes, but we don't need it anymore. Also, as you can see, just like I imported init posts, you can import any function you want through a for loop. Well, I showed it as an example and use it here directly instead of init post there, init post from the for loop and so on. That's all. Like this. I'll remove this too. I want to tidy up our code as much as possible right now and let this remain the main entry point. Once again, I remind you, if we don't use the type module, then our JavaScript won't understand that we are working in a modular model. That is, it won't perceive all of this. Well guys, I've already shown you a hacker level project. Again, in our understanding of a hacker base. Therefore, I immediately give you, at the beginning, we write a draft version for understanding, and then follows a lesson where we tidy it up and try to make it as consistent as possible. And it already seems to me that in these lessons, everything is more or less clear. Moreover, as I said, the further we go, the easier it will actually become. Not harder, but easier. Because the most difficult thing is to overcome this barrier of understanding, and then everything will go smoothly. Oh, when we start learning frameworks, it will be a real treat. A stream of code and enjoyment from the results you see. I will attach the link to the sandbox in the description. Be sure to join the Telegram channel Hacker Base because there are career exclusives there. If you follow my advice, success is guaranteed. All the experience gathered over more than 10 years. Scan the Hacker Base QR code or follow the link in the description and the bot will add you to the necessary channel. This was Max from Hacker Base. See you in the next lessons. Adieu. Join the Hacker Base channel on Telegram and I'll tell you how to build a successful career and hack this system.